Well, here we have this week's Torah portion, which is Parshat Nitzavim. Nitzavim is standing. Moses says to all the Jewish people, Atem Nitzavim Hayom Kulchem, you are standing today, all of you. All of you. Lifnei Hashem Elokechem, before God, your God, Roshechem Shiftechem, the heads of the tribes, Ziknechem, the elders, Shotrechem, these policemen. Call Ish Yisrael, all of the Jewish people. The question might arise in some people's minds, and it should arise, and it's a very good thing that you should have questions. And one of the questions is, what do you have to have all of this for? Just say, Call Yisrael. You are standing today, all of you, all of the Jewish people are cool, or just this. From here, cut the whole thing out. Just say, Atem nitzavim hayom, livnei Hashem Elokechem. So you put these words in, livnei Hashem Elokechem. Call Yisrael, all the Jewish people. Why? We'll see. God willing. Rashi, Atem nitzavim malamed. This comes to teach us. Shekinah on Moshe, that Moshe gathered all of the Jews in front of God beyond Moto on the day that he died. When did Moses die? When did Moses die? About a month before the Jews went into Israel. On the 7th day of Adar, and the Jews went into Israel on the 10th day of the next month, Nisan. To put them into a new covenant. What is this new covenant? We'll see what the new covenant is. But we've been talking about this new covenant. Right? Let us suffice it to say that the first covenant that God made with the Jews at Mount Sinai, they sort of put a, a damper on it, sort of ruined the party, the Jewish people, by worshiping the golden calf. Right? God made a covenant with the Jews on Mount Sinai, and 40 days later they worshiped the golden calf. So they need a sort of a new, stronger covenant, renew the covenant. Roshechem Shiftechem, the first of this, Roshechem Lishiftechem, the heads of the tribes, says Rashi. Zignechem Shiftechem, Zignechem Veshotrechem. Chashuv Kodem. Rashi says the most important come first, and then afterwards all the Jewish people. So Rashi sort of answers the question. First of all, the heads of the tribes, then the elders, then the soldiers, and then everybody else. Kol Ish Yisrael means everybody else. Huh? It's pretty good. Pretty good answer. The Baal HaTurim says, Nitzavim Kadirach Sha'omer, just like it said in Mount Sinai, that the Jewish people stood under the mountain in order to receive the Torah. According to some opinions, this comes to show you that God held the mountain over the Jewish people. According to other opinions, this mountain that he held over the Jewish people was love, which we see by Abraham, that love is synonymous with a mountain. Anyway, take my word for it. Palashat Omar Khan, here it says the same thing. Atem Nitzavim, you are standing. Livnei Hashem Elokechem, Heicham Roshechem, Hikish Roshechem LeElokechem. To tell you that more Rabacha, that the fear of your teacher, Roshechem, should be like the fear of God. Yisrael, Somach Lei, and afterwards all of the Jewish people together. Atem Nitzavim, let's see the OrHaChaim. He has a sort of an interesting way of saying, we have to understand, why does it all say this? Why doesn't it say the heads? And later on here, let's go a little further, we'll see Tapchem, the babies, Neshechem, the women. Gercha, the converts, Asher B'Kerev Mechanecha. And these are different types of converts. Michote Vitzecha, from the wood choppers until the water drawers. Let's go back to the OrHaChaim. He says, why does it say, why does it have to say all these different types of people? Why didn't it just say, but they're a chlal, kulchem? Here, let's say, Atem nitzavim hayom kulchem ifnei Hashem lakichem. That's it. You don't have to say any more than that. You're all standing. So he says, why? Oh, that's a question. Next question. Oh, tzurich ladat. We have to understand, why does it say this brit? Why does it have to make a second covenant, a second agreement? Allah, the Samachat already says, these are the words of the covenant. If we want to just say maybe a general way, it should have said, Vayomer al hakol ela divrei brit. Let's see here. Here it says, La'av v'rocha b'brit. I'm standing, you making you stand here to give you this covenant. And then it says, I'm sorry, we said it previously. Last week's Torah portion, it said, after all the curses, it says, this is the covenant that God made with you. Ela divrei brit. Why does he have to repeat all the time, this is the covenant, this is the covenant, I'm going to make you a covenant? And so he says the intention is like this. That Moses here, the first covenant was between God and the Jewish people in Mount Sinai. Says the OrHaChaim, this Rabbi Chaim ben Attar, he lived in the same time as the Baal Shem Tov, like about 300 years ago. The intention over here is that Moshe, he wants to make all the Jews responsible one for the other. So that every person would make a big effort for the other. Everyone would watch everybody else so they shouldn't sin. And also everyone was responsible for everyone else. So if one person sins, all those responsible for him are also punished. That's what we're going to see later on. It says that the hidden things are for God. Thoughts, what people are thinking in their hearts, that belongs to God. Don't worry, you'll be responsible to God about that. So what am I supposed to be responsible to my friend? Haniglos lanu, namely that Allah arvos davra katuv. That's talking about this responsibility that everyone has for everybody else. This is not the same thing that was said in the Parshat Kitavo, right after the curses that we talked about, because that covenant was on themselves. That's the covenant that God made to strengthen the covenant that he made at Mount Sinai. So back then, God made a covenant at Mount Sinai. The Jewish people worshiped the golden calf. So God made another covenant, strengthened it, or reminded them that this covenant still exists. That was last week, after all these curses. Remember the 98 curses. Everyone's responsible to God. And here we're going to see the covenant is Atem nitzavim kulchem, that God makes a covenant that each and every Jew is going to be responsible for every other Jew. So that's what the Rabbi says. That's what it means. Atem nitzavim, you are standing today. The intention is, like it says, nitzav al hakotzrim. What does it mean? Nitzav means that you are appointed to be the overseer. And it says, kulchem, all of you are overseers responsible for everyone else. Kafi mashahu al derech ha'omer, like it says in Masechah Shabbos, kol mi sheyesh biyado. Any person that sees another Jew doing a sin and he can reprove him or at least say something, he has to do so. Because if not, then you, the person who had the ability to stop someone else and doesn't do it, at least warn the person, he is also responsible for that sin. So it says, if you have the ability to stop the people of the country from doing a sin, then you don't, and they do a sin, so you are also held responsible for that. Same thing. If you don't, you can't control everybody in the country, but you have the ability to stop people in your city, and you don't, and the people sin, and anyone who has the possibility to stop the sins of his house or of his, etc. So that's what it says. OrHaChaim, you are gathered today. What does it mean? The heads, that each one is obvious according to what he has the control over. The heads, those are the greatest of all of them. They have the control over all the Jewish people. The heads of the tribes, there are 12 tribes. Those are the Levi also. Those are the ones that are responsible for each and every shevet, each and every tribe on itself. The elders, this is his whole entire family. Call Ish Israel, this is everyone's household. Could be the elders, they have like 10 sons, and each one of them has a household, and each one of those sons is responsible in the household. So that's why it says, Tapchem, who are the ones that are only responsible only for themselves? The children, they aren't responsible. They haven't got any influence on others. So the children on themselves, etc. That's okay. That's quickly what he explained. The Kli Yucker, just a little bit. He says, Rashi says the most important people are first, and so it is with all the Jews. Those are the heads of the tribes, and etc. And but nevertheless, Lomer Chasero Velo Lachinam. Nevertheless, it says, why doesn't it say Rishe? What does Rashi say? You are standing today, Roshechem Shiftechem. Why doesn't it say Roshechem Li Shiftechem? It says the heads of the tribes, but that's not what it says. That's what Rashi says it means, but it says the heads, the tribes, the elders, the policemen. Right? That's what it says. Why is it missing this letter Lamed? Gam also, what did Moshe see to order in this way? So he says, what I think is like this. This is what the Kli Yakar says. The first covenant, the Jewish people wrecked it up by means of the golden calf. That's the covenant that God made at Mount Sinai. That's what I told you before. That was, why did they make it? Because they were not responsible one for the other. Therefore, every person did what was good in his own eyes. So therefore, God saw fit to make them another one, that everyone would be responsible one for the other. When was that going to be? On Mount Gerizim, that's going to be, and Mount Abel. That's the curses and the blessings they're going to get. In order that everyone is responsible to turn as many people as possible away from doing sins. Because a person, this is like what the OrHaChaim said. Also, the same thing with the Jewish people. As soon as they are responsible one for the other, that anyone who has the ability to reprove his friend, whether one person or a lot of people, so he has to do so. Right, he continues pretty much in the same vein as the OrHaChaim does. Tapchem Neshechem Gercha, that everyone is responsible. This covenant here, he made everyone responsible for everyone else. The heads of the Tapchem, the children, the women, Gercha, the converts. Rashi says two types of converts. Chote v'tzecha, those who chopped wood, and those who drew water. He said, Malami, this comes to tell you that the Canaanim came to convert in the days of Moses, just like the Givonim did in the days of Joshua. Now, the fact is, the Givonim, that was a tribe. They claimed that they came from far away and they heard about the good things that happened, and they wanted to. The fact of the matter is not so. The Givonim were just a tribe that they were afraid that the Jews would take over, so they pretended, and they fooled Joshua. They fooled him, but he said, "Okay, you fooled me. I converted you. You converted on false premises, but the conversion is good to a certain degree. I'll make you water drawers." That's what it says about the Givonim, but Yasu Gam Hema be'arma. They made a trick. And Moshe, though he made the Canaanim, he made them into Chotvei Eitzim, V'shoev Mayim, to drawing water. So the Sifsei Chachamim says, the intention doesn't mean, the Sifsei Chachamim, he comes to explain Rashi. The intention doesn't mean that they actually succeeded in fooling Moshe, the Canaanim, just like Joshua did. God forbid that they fooled Moses, what they said about him, that he was the most faithful and close to God. But what? They came to make peace with him, and Moses did not receive them. And therefore, he made them into water drawers and to woodcutters. They came to be these things. They became these, but they did not fool Moses. That's what he says. Usually it says that the water drawers were the Givonim, and so Moses, it seems that he made the Canaanim like sort of sub-helpers to them. Maybe they accepted on themselves 7 Noahide commandments, whatever. In any case, la'avracha bris, to make you a covenant, uba'alaso, with a curse that God will cut with you today. But we learned about the curses we learned in previous. What does it mean, la'avracha bris? Over, we said before, remember we learned in Chassidut in the class in the morning that when they made a covenant like with Abraham, so God told Abraham to take an animal, cut it into 2, slaughtered it and cut it into 2. And they would pass between the 2 pieces, as though to say that just like this animal is not whole, one half without the other, so we're not whole, one without the other. Doesn't mean lahavircha. The God is saying, here he's saying that God is saying, I am making you with this covenant. It's not saying that I'm passing you through this covenant. It means that you will become connected to me. You will become. It's not to do this process of going through the covenant. Not the process. You will be linked to me, God is saying. Derech Avara. That's why he says la'avracha b'bris, just like it was, like he says, like I just finished saying that Abraham did with he cut the calf into 2, and 2 people went over. Here's the reason it says Allah. So why does it say to give you this covenant and God's curse? What's the curse got to do with it? It says the OrHaChaim, the Kodesh. The reason that it says Allah, so why doesn't he just say I'm giving you a covenant? This is explained. Why did he have to make the covenant at all? Why wasn't it just good enough? What God says? God says, I'm giving you all these commandments. Do the commandments. That's good enough. But the reason is because when a person does one sin, what does a sin mean? A sin means essentially that a person is rebelling against God. And therefore, one person does one sin, he gets one punishment. But it's more proper to say שמהיום מודה בהשם ובתורתו ויתחייב על למד ו' קריסוס כמו מיסוס ועונשין. Instead of saying, listen, I did one sin, so I get one punishment, it's more proper to say, a person that does one sin, what is he really doing? He's saying, I rebel against the king. This I accept from the king, but this I don't accept from the king. So it's not really he just gets one punishment. It could be that according to the law, he only gets one. But essentially what he's doing is he's rebelling totally against the king. Right? One little thing, the king tells you, paint that wall. Yes, your majesty. Move your car. Yes, your majesty. Pull up that wheat from the garden. No, your majesty. What's that? What do you mean, no? So listen, I did two of the other things. What do you care? 35 things that you told me to do, I did. I'm not going to do this one. It means that you're essentially going against the king. So Asher al Kain, therefore, nitchakem Hashem ba'aviron b'brit l'chayev malkol prat v'prat. Therefore, God said each and every detail is like the whole entire thing. Ubira shavua. That's what he says. That it's two people that they swear to, and if one of them leaves out one detail, then that negates the whole entire contract. That's what it says. B'brit u'ba Allah. That's what it means with the blessing and the curse. So now, even though that a person might think that, one second. That's right. So therefore, even now, it's considered that he is going against the God by doing one little tiny sin. So it won't be enough just one little tiny punishment, but rather it's treated as though that on any little tiny thing he does, it's as though he's denied the whole entire covenant totally. A lot of people might say, listen, that's sort of the big problem with conservative Judaism. What's conservative Judaism? We do a couple commandments. It's better to do a couple, something, than not to do anything at all. It's better to do something. Well, in a way, it depends. What does that mean? Right? If a person can't do all the commandments on his own, so he's building up little by little, okay, you do what you can. But to say that that's all you have to do, right? You do what you can, and that's enough. It's not enough. You do what you can with the hope that you'll be able to do more, because you have to understand you have to do more. Right? You have to do more. It's like a person that smokes, let's say, 7 packs of cigarettes a day, and so he gets it down to where he's smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day. That's very good, but it's 3 packs of cigarettes is not good, right? It's not good. Well, let's say he never says anything to his children, and one day of the month he decides he's going to say something nice to his children, or take the other way around. Every day he's going to be nice to his children, except for one day. Except for one day. So you do what you can, of course. You do what you can. But the fact of the matter is that when you're doing the commandments, you're not doing the commandments. You're serving the Creator, the giver of the commandments. So Judaism is not just a set of rituals that you can pick, whichever. I mean, you can do whatever you want to. A person can, God forbid, do any sins that he wants to. That's for sure. The question is, if you want to do what God wants, so basically you have to say it's either I'm doing everything or nothing. But if by doing one thing, it'll open up my appreciation, so I'll start doing more and more, then okay, you do what you can, right? You do what you can. That's why Chabad, for instance, they put tefillin one time a person in the street, with a hope that he'll put on 2 times, and then he'll put on 5 times, and then eventually he'll put on every day, and then eventually he'll keep kosher, and then so that's what it means. Every single commandment contains all of the rest. Covenant, you are now standing, says the Sephorno, Rabbi Ovadia of Sephorno. You are standing today on this order, preparing to be passed through this covenant. So now we can see that all of you want to accept on yourselves the covenant with a full heart. That's what it means you're all standing together. It says the Sefarno that all the Jewish people, Moses saw that all the Jewish people really had a true desire to do this, to accept on themselves more and more, have a deeper connection to the Creator. That God connects you today. So God intends with this command, this covenant, to make you for Him a people. And He will be for you for a God. And this will give eventually eternal life, because God is eternal. And this is the purpose of this covenant. That's why it's so tremendously important that it should be accepted completely. So he has a little bit of a different opinion than what we learned before. Here he's saying this is a very, very general, all the others are saying that God here is coming down to the details. And here he's saying he's just fortifying the connection that he had, we talked about last week, that God will be eternally he'll never leave the Jews. And on the other hand, deep inside of every Jew, a Jew can never leave the Creator. Yud Beis, here's a nice one. In order to stand you up today for a people, and God will be for you for a God, right? That's what the Sforno said. Like God said to you, and God swore to your forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, why does he have to do this covenant again? Listen to what Rashi says. So much, God had to, how do you say, trouble himself, so to speak, in order to keep you in front of him as a people. And it was the Jewish people are a very difficult people. So God always is saying, I'm going to do everything I can, and you should know you're always going to be my people. And I will be for you a God. I'll be your protector. Because this is God swore. Why? Because God said, I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that I would never change the Jewish people for another nation. Therefore, God he connected himself in all of these oaths. God said, I swear that I will never leave you, and I'm making you swear that you will never leave me. Since so he's pleading with the Jews, please don't make trouble for me, because I'm telling you, I can never leave you. We're stuck forever. Siamese twins. And therefore, Parashti, I explained according to the simple meaning. This is the simple meaning. Right? That's the simple meaning. The God is saying, I'm yours, you're mine. Please keep the covenant. But there's a midrash, and the midrash says like this. Why is this Nitzavim right after the Torah portion with all the curses? The 98 curses in Parshas Kitabo. We didn't do that in class, the 98 curses. I skipped over it, not because of any sort of a logical reason, just I didn't have time. Because Sheshamu Yisrael, the Jewish people, heard 100 curses minus 2, 98 curses from God, the last week's Torah portion. And this is in addition to the 49 curses that they heard in the end of the book of Leviticus, Parshas Bechukotai. As therefore, Riku Paneim, their faces became green. In other words, they became weak. Omer, the Jewish people said, Mi yochal lamod, who can stand under these terrible, awesome curses? I mean, you have 98 curses here and 49 curses over there. So that's what, 147 curses, 146 curses. That's a lot of curses. Therefore, Jewish people said, listen, Moses, maybe, we made a mistake over here. He killed Moses, so Moses started comforting them. What do you mean he started comforting them? And Ibrahim Sashir, Od Rebasha, Vakasha, Od Rebasha, Tzaltzal. Atem Nitzavim Ayom, you are standing today. That's what Moses said to the Jewish people. Don't worry about it. You heard all these curses. Don't worry, you're still standing. Harbe Chastam, you made God Lamakom, God, you made God very angry. And he didn't destroy you. And here you are. You're still standing in front of him. What does it mean today? Just like this very day that you are existing, just like the day, that the day gets dark and it gets light, also the same thing, God will always shine for you, and he'll always shine for you despite all the darkness that you cause him, and the curses and the difficulties and the suffering, exactly the opposite. They make you stronger. Umatzivim otchem lefanov, and they put you firmly in front of him. Right? A person's next door neighbor's child does bad things. He doesn't care. He would like it. Maybe he'll speak to his next door neighbor and ask him. But a person's own child, because he loves him, so he's very, very strict with him. And he says, listen, you can't do that. I don't want you playing with people like that. I want you to watch out for drugs. I want you to watch out for negative influences. I want you to tell me everything that you do, everything they're trying to make you do, because he cares about his own son. Right? And sometimes if he catches the son going out, so he'll punish the son. That's for this child's good. Also, Ra'af haparsha shalomayla mizu piusinin. Also, all the curses are really, how do you say, comforts. What do you mean? That you've seen all the terrible things that happened, all the terrible things you did, and nevertheless, God says, I still love you, and you're still here. That's what you're still standing. Another explanation, Matem Mitzavim, you're standing because the Jewish people were going from one leader to another, from Moses to Joshua, Moshe, the Yeshua. Therefore, God made them, he stood them all up in order to, how do you say, to encourage them, to, what's the word? Encourage them. There's a better word, but I can't think of it. Like before the baseball game or before the basketball game, there's the cheering team. The coach takes them and says, okay, go on, you can do it. You're But Cain also, that's what Joshua also did. And when Joshua moved from, he was about to pass away. And also Shmuel did. He made everybody stand together and he gave them a pep talk. Kishiyetsu miyado, when they came from his hand, from Shmuel, from Shaul, and they went to the hand of King Saul, etc. Can we do one more? Yes, let's try. Yud Gimel. Not only with you alone am I making this covenant and this curse, but everyone that's here today with you in front of God, and all of them that are not here today. What does it mean, anyone that's not here today? All the future generations also. I'm making this covenant. So the Kli Ykar asked a question. Everybody's asking, how can God make a covenant with souls that weren't there? The people haven't been born yet. How could he obligate them to do things they weren't? So he says, also according to Reb Yonatan Eibeshitz and the others, he says the rabbis say that all of the souls that were going to be created were all there. And we can also see this from what it says in the language of the pasuk, the sentence, Ki et asher yeshno Paul, those people are here, standing here today in front of God, and those that are not standing here today. It doesn't say the souls that don't exist yet, just the souls that are not standing with us today. We understand this. It's talking about the souls that are here, that exist, even though that they're not here with us now, but nevertheless they are standing in front of God constantly. Where? Under the throne of glory, a spiritual level, the world of Bria, the world of whatever it is, Atzilus, just like the angels, that they're also called standing. Like it says in the prophet Zechariah, I've made you walking being these standing ones. Walking are the souls when they come into the bodies, and standing are the souls before they come into the bodies or after they're in the body. So this is also the souls of the Jews that had died in the desert also. This is right before. That's what it means. They are with us. It should say they're not here today, but it means that they're not standing with us here physically today, but they're still here. All the souls, all the spiritual souls are also here with us today. Now let's learn the Pirkei Avot. Here we go.